So when we're producing a painting, which colours work best together? Which colours go together most harmoniously? Well, there are lots of different ways to work this out. There are lots of theories about how to put colours together. So we're going to go back to the colour wheel and we're going to work with this to have a look at some of those colour theories. There are 6 basic harmonious schemes that you can use. The first one, the most simple if you like, is a monochromatic scheme, which is literally just using one colour, but within that using tints and shades to create the different values. Next, there's analogous or analogous colour theory, where you use the 3 colours next to each other. Could be blue to purple to red. It could be in the yellow spectrum from yellow to orange. Doesn't matter, but they need to be next door to each other. Then we have complementary colours. So these are the colours that are opposite each other in the colour wheel. The next one is split complementary colours, where you take a colour, you go opposite, but you don't actually use the opposite complementary colour, you take the colours either side of that. There's also the Triadic Scheme, where you take the equally spaced colours, 3 equally spaced colours from around the wheel. And then possibly the most complex to use is the Tetradic scheme, where you take 4 colours almost opposite each other. As you can see here, I'm pointing to these colours here. So not complementary, but it's also sometimes called the double complementary scheme. But we'll come back to that in a little while and I'll show you how we can work with that. So let's actually use some paint and create some of these schemes together, just to see how the paints work together. So I've put out my, my primary colours. We're going to start with the Monochromatic Scheme. So I'm going to start by just loading the brush with the blue. And as we have done before, we're going to go make some tints and we're going to make some shades as well. We need to add some white. In this instance, for speed, we're going to be using some black as well. Take some white, just create some tints. And then we'll add some black. So you can see that using a monochromatic scheme like this, it may not be colourful, but you have a variety of tones and tints from which you can make a very interesting composition. Next, we'll work on the analogous scheme. So what we need to do is pick a colour and then pick the 2 colours either side of it. So in this instance, I'm going to use red. The colours either side of the red are a lilac and then an orange as well. And you can see, because these colours are very similar in a similar part of the colour spectrum, the colour wheel, that they do work together very nicely. They do harmonise quite nicely. There's no shock, if you like. There's no bold colour that stands out, but they do complement each other rather nicely. With a complementary scheme, where you're working with opposite sides of the colour wheel, then obviously you do get, although they're complementary, they do compete with each other. So you've got to be quite careful how you do use these in a painting. But we'll just quickly put these down. We're only using 2 colours with this. So this is a complementary. The complementary of red is green. So we'll try that again with another pairing. We've got the purple here already mixed. And opposite that, we'll have the yellow. So you can see they really do clash together. But when you're using them in a painting, if you only use a little bit of one and mostly other, so if you're painting a field and there's just a couple of dots of poppies, some spots of red colour, that really does make them stand out and adds an interest to the picture. Now split complementary. This is getting slightly more complicated. Let's start with the blue again. And then, if we went for the complementary of blue, we're looking at a pale orange, but either side of that, we've got a yellow and a deeper orange. And again, it's another colour scheme that works well together. The Triadic Scheme is where we take 3 equally spaced colours. So let's take a green, and then we work our way round the colour wheel, and we find we've got blue and a very deep orange. And finally, the double complementary, or the tetradic, of green. And then again, we work our way almost complementary to that. We find that we've got orange and red. And don't forget that when you are using these as colour schemes, you can use them as tints and shades as well. So you're not limited to using these hues, these very bright colours. You can make them much more subtle, more pastel coloured, using them as tints or using them as shades. And then you have a great wealth of different colours to work with. But staying within these colour schemes themselves, it really does help when you're planning your painting. Okay, so now we're going to take the theory and put it into practice. I'm going to do a series of very small, very rough paintings, colour schemes of this particular photograph that I've got, using the different colour schemes that we've talked about. And we're going to start with the monochromatic scheme. So I've squeezed out some ultramarine, some black and some white, and we'll get started. But they are going to be very rough, loose sketches, if you like, just to show how the colour scheme will work. Okay, so don't forget that with the monochromatic we are literally just using the one colour, but we are using tints and shades as well to give variety of tone. We're lucky that it's quite a blue picture anyway. Adding more blue or taking some of the blue away. Trying to work out whether it should be lighter or darker than the background. I think the background could actually do with being just a fraction lighter. All the time thinking about the light and shade, how much blue I'm going to be using, how much colour I'm actually going to be using in the picture. Certainly focuses the mind when you're doing this, particularly with painting quickly like this. Just have to look at the very basics. It's good exercise actually. Again, I'm still thinking that the darkest darks are right close up. And working back into the face. tint in to lighten the areas. Increase the dynamic range, putting higher highlights in. So I'm just stepping back a little from it and looking at the dynamic range, seeing what needs to be slightly higher highlighted. The hair certainly can at the back. And actually probably the background can be just a little bit lighter. But you can see from that you can use just blues, black and white, and you can create different tones, different textures within the picture, and so that is your monochromatic scheme. In this sketch, we're going to be using the Analogous Palette to produce the painting. So I've gone for a blue, cyan through to magenta. And we'll work with that. So it should be again a harmonious palette because they are next to each other, but this time with more variety than the monochromatic theme. Right, so I'm just going to lay in the darks first. Just laying this in just to find my feet with the painting, basically, to get started. We'll work backwards and forwards on top of this. Now we're going to be working into the background. So I think that could be a fair bit bluer and paler. The question is, do I like that particular blue in the background? I think that could be just muted a little bit. It's a little bit too bright. So I'm going to take some of the mauve and add quite a bit of white to that and mix that with the blue. Let's see what that's like. There we go. I think that's a nicer, more muted colour. Now what's quite nice now, because we've got this red, this magenta, we can now highlight some of this wording in the background. To give the picture just a little bit of a lift. And that's the thing with this now, that because we've got this extra dimension of colour, we really can just pick out certain areas, and that helps to give flow to the picture as well, to take the eye around the picture. And adding some tone now, adding some shade to really add a greater range to the tonality of the picture. I don't want to use absolute black, that's not the effect we want or I'm looking for. So I'm using some of the lighter magenta in the hair now. So again, it lifts it from being just monochromatic. but it does remain having a harmony, which is the idea of this colour theory. So I'm constantly looking at the lights and darks. And just to finish this off again, looking at the face and the hands, perhaps they could have touch lighter areas in them. So again, as a colour sketch, this would be hugely helpful if I was going to go on and paint this as a larger piece. You know, I'm working out all the colour relationships, seeing whether I think they work or not. But I think you can see, even in that short space of time and doing this really roughly, how you can now start to produce different colour schemes. And I could have done this with other analogous colours, and we would have got a similar harmonious effect. Still working with the same image, I've produced these two new paintings using different colour harmonies. On the left-hand side, I've worked with a complementary scheme using orange and blue, and as you can see, the colours really do work very nicely together. The sketch on the right-hand side is split complementary, and for that I've used the primary colours and worked with those. Now obviously the picture is predominantly blue, but nevertheless, even within that, using this particular scheme, you get a much greater variety of colours and tones. So we can see that even in these four very simple, rough little sketches that I've done from the same image, that using different harmony schemes can produce different mood effects, different feelings in the painting, from quite simplistic in the monochrome right the way through to a much richer, deeper set of colours using the split complementary. And we can use these effects when we look at other paintings.